Okie dokes. So, some of you guys have been trying to use translate and rotate, and they get a little funky. So, I want to spend a minute and kind of demonstrate how those things work. So, for the purposes of my first demonstration here, I am not going to declare what? What would I have to declare? Never mind, that was too vague. I'm not going to declare a draw or a setup method for this first one, because I just want to play with this for a second. So I literally just want to translate some shapes around and see what it does. Okay, so bare minimum code I need to make this thing work. I'm going to make a nice size window, because I feel like the default size is boring and too small. So I'm going to make a 600 400 window. Cool. Yes? Okay. Next thing. I'm going to make an object to translate. What is your favorite object?
Circle.
Cool. Good call. Let's do all of those. Rectangle was not one of those. Ellipse was one of those. What does an ellipse take as arguments? X, Y, diameter in the X, and diameter in the Y. Okay, so, or maybe those are radii. I don't know. We'd have to go look. Their diameter. Okay, so if we do, maybe put this thing at, I guess we should put it a ways out. So we'll put it at like 20, 40, and we want it to be like, I don't know, 20 wide and 50 tall or something. I'm making this an ellipse so I can see how it rotates, right? Because otherwise it'll be boring. Okay, so then I'm also going to put in something easy, and I'm just too lazy to make a triangle, so I'm going to make a rectangle. And I'm going to put my rectangle at someplace different, so maybe 60, 100, and what are the other two arguments that this thing wants? A width and a height in this mode, right? So I'm going to make that 50 wide and 80 tall for kicks.
Can we also do a polygon with
no.
in the amount of sides and take that limit to infinity?
Yes, we can. We did that with the ellipse, actually.
Cool, thanks.
If you want to actually do polygons, there is a P-shaped thing that lets you just list vertices, and it'll just connect them in the polygon that has those as edges. It takes a lot of math to figure out exactly where the vertices ought to be, so I'm not going to use that shape in this class. But if you want to figure it out on your own, it's there. Okay, so I have my two shapes. Yes? Okay. Now, I would like to translate my two shapes. So, I also really hate the gray background. So, can I make the background white again? Beautiful.
Should also make the shape color. Or
oh yeah, and we should probably set a fill color. What do I set a fill color? Fill. And I think. Let's see, what are those? What's the order of colors? Red, green, blue. So I'm into green today. So I'm gonna make green shapes. Cool. Now we should move green shapes about. Okay, so when you're translating stuff, you literally just say translate, right? Parentheses thing. It says it's whining that it needs two floats. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm just going to give it some floats, right? So I'm going to give it floats like, I don't know, 200, 300. Okay. Hit go. What do I expect this to do? Yeah, either move it right and down or nothing. Why would it do nothing? Yeah, because I didn't make anything after the translate, right? I made some stuff and then I translated. Probably this isn't going to move the whole picture after it's been made. Okay, see that? So if I hit go, I get exactly the same picture I had before. So let me take my two shapes and my fill here and copy these. So I'm just going to copy these and shove them in here under the translate. And I'm going to change the fill color to blue. Oops. So that I'll know which ones are the moved ones. Right? Goesies?
I guess the rectangle is just not.
Yeah, so I moved things 200 in the X and 300 in the Y, right? But the window's only 400 in the Y anyways. You guys see that? So, of course, things that were too far down went off the screen.
So it's just adding 200, 300 to the X and Y values.
God, you would totally think that's the way it works, but actually what it's doing is it's redeclaring the origin to be at 200, 300.
Super nice.
Okay, so what it does is instead of just moving everything, it actually just moves the origin around. So it says, hey, instead of 0, 0 being up in the top left, 0, 0 is going to be at 200, 300. Okay, now for the kicker of this thing. Let me just, okay, so I think I got some of this. Let me just translate the origin to the middle of the screen, right? So how would I put the origin in the middle of the screen? Yeah, center might, you might try that. It won't work. Because it needs to take floats, right? And the word center, even in all caps, isn't a float, it's an idea. So you need width over 2, comma, height over 2. Right? Okay, so now this should declare the origin to be the middle of the screen, which is 300, 200. So the origin's someplace in here, right? Cool? Alright, now get ready for the headache of your life. I'm going to make an ellipse follow the mouse around. Right? So to make an ellipse follow the mouse around, what should I put in here? Put mouse X, mouse Y, and some size stuff, right? So like 5, 5. Right, so that should be a little circle of radius 5 that follows the mouse around. Right? Okay, hit go. Oh, why isn't it following the mouse around? Yeah, I don't have a draw method. So let me just put all this junk in a draw method. So what is it? How do you declare a draw method? Void draw. Why is it void? Yeah, because it's not returning anything, and it doesn't need to take anything. Okay, and then I probably need a setup method. What do I need a setup method now? Yeah. The only things that are allowed outside of methods are variable declarations and classes. Oh, and I forgot my fancy parentheses because I'm a dummy. Okay, so now maybe this will follow my mouse around.
The origin is declared differently, right? So you have it after the translate. That's okay. We can just put mouse X minus the origin change and mouse Y. Or just put it above the
Yeah. You guys see this? So mouse X and mouse Y is, so this is not about the regular origin, right? The mouse X, mouse Y should also be relative to the new origin, right? Yeah, except it isn't. Right? Like, mouse X, mouse Y is totally independent of the new origin. It doesn't pay any attention to translations or rotates that you've done. The only thing it pays attention to at all is the window itself. Right? So mouse X, mouse Y is position of the mouse in the window relative to the top left corner. Always. Just a pain in the ass. Right? So what you end up wanting to do is something like this, right? You want to go up here and be like, okay, so, dude, I gotta deal with this. Like, new mouse X. Maybe set it at 0. New mouse Y. Set to 0. Oh, thank you. That would have been a major headache. Oh, yeah, and I do want them to be floats, right? Because right now, what is it even doing? I have no idea what it even thinks it's doing. Those should be floats. Why should they be floats? Like, why not integers or... Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to make this out of the mouse X and mouse Y variables, right? So probably it better be still the same category as the mouse X and mouse Y. Okay, so how am I going to make those out of the mouse X and mouse Y?
Mouse X equals mouse X minus width over 2.
Okay, hang on. So that should go right here after you translated, right? So that should be like new mouse X is the regular mouse X. And it's like either plus or minus the width over 2. And it's minus the width over 2. You could figure this out by fiddling around if you wanted to. Let's see if that works. So now it should at least follow my... So... Yeah, you guys see what I screwed up? My ellipse is still drawn at mouse X, not at new mouse X. So, while it was cool that I made that new variable, I didn't use it for anything. So, of course, it didn't, do anything. So, let's try it now. So now it should follow me in the... Oh, good. It's following me in the X direction, at least. Score! How do I make it follow me in the Y direction? Okay, so we do like new mouse Y is... Oh yeah, why am I... Copy this, mouse Y minus height over 2. And then I need to replace the mouse down here. So that should be new mouse Y. Okay, sick. Alright, now I got it following me. That's good. Okay, so it is worth noting that was good for this translation, right? You guys see that? So in general, what should this new mouse X be? Yeah, you'd hope. It is unless you rotate, and then it gets really jacked up. So I'm not even going to show you how to do this with rotations. Okay? There's a ton of vector math. You can figure it out, but it takes more than a second. So, in general, should be the old mouse X minus the translation in X, right? Unless you rotate, in which case, God help you. I guess we should probably put in either a lot of prayer or a lot of math will be involved in this. You can pick which one. I might recommend the math, but, you know, whatevs. You can just try stuff until you maybe get close. Be a little careful with that, it'll be a disaster.
Out of curiosity, is there an easy way to get the computer to calculate the distance between an original ellipse and a translation of that ellipse? Whatever shape.
Yeah, there's an easy distance formula. It's just dist.
So could we possibly use that distance formula and plug that into that to adjust the new mouse x and the new mouse y, but by whatever, x distance and y distance the translated
Oh, I see.
From the original version of that ellipse.
Probably the easiest way to do that is to look at the easiest way to get the x and y displacements, or to look at the translate that you've done. Getting the computer to recognize that this ellipse and that ellipse are copies of one another and that they've been moved a certain amount, that might be really hard.
So it still ends up being easier to just do it yourself.
Yeah, I think it's going to be generally easiest to do it yourself because you know how much you translated it. If you did a random translation, you would just want to record that amount into a variable somewhere so you could call it again. What's up, man?
I noticed that translate doesn't seem to, it only exists for a certain period of time, because every time you go through draw, it's only...
Yeah, so this is very reasonable. You guys see that I call translate once, right? In here. And then these guys, my original greenies here, they're still just chilling up here, right? So you might notice that I'm getting drawn over when I go in there, right? That's because all those, the ellipse and the rectangle, the green ones, are created every single time, right? And the translate seems to only last until the draw method ends, and then when it starts over, it's not active anymore. You guys see that? So if I declare a rotate in here too, it'll only take if it's in the draw method, it'll only take effect for the stuff after that. It's also a little funky in that if you put the translate, so if you take the translate, right? So take this, oops, I'm just going to comment it out here. So if I take the translate and put it in the setup, what do I expect to happen? Yeah, I would think it would draw everything like the origin is at width over 2, comma height over 2. Right? What the hell? Yeah, so that every time the draw method activates, it erases the translations and rotations that have occurred. So what happened here is it drew the green rectangle and the green ellipse, and then it drew the blue ones over the top at 0, 0, because it ignored the translations that took place before the draw method ran. In other words, if you want to change the origin for your drawing, like universally, you can't do that outside the draw method. You have to change it every single time the draw method runs, which is obnoxious. But it just is the way it is. Right? So that every time the draw method runs, it erases the previous translations, including ones that have been run outside.
But every time it runs through the draw method, it'll reapply the translation where you tell it to, right?
Yeah, so if I have a translate in the draw method, like this guy, that's retranslating in the middle of the draw method. So that's drawing those first couple the first green stuff, and then it's translating and drawing the blue stuff.
So if we had translate, do some stuff, and then translate 0, 0, it would do the stuff there, and then translate it the rest back to the original.
Yeah, I would love to tell you that's true. Let me try that. So I'm just going to translate a little bit, like, because otherwise it'll be really confusing.
You have to translate negative.
No, shh. Stop knowing the answer. It's more fun if you don't know the
Oh,
answer.
it's gonna translate from the previous.
Yep, so if I draw reds now and hit go, it now translates from that previous origin, right? So it's all relative to the origin it's at.
It makes sense.
Okay, so if you want to avoid this... Oh, look, the little blue thing's following me still. That's great. If you want to avoid this really aggravating behavior, you can understand something a little bit more. Just tough. So, I need to give you an analogy that I don't really like, but it's the analogy that the guy who wrote Processing uses. Many of you guys ever been in a cafeteria where there's like big stacks of plates? Right? So, think of the plates as like where the origin is and where the X and Y axis are pointed. So right now there's one plate on the stack, right? And that plate is the usual, right? Like X is this way, Y is this way, and the scale is per usual, right? And the origin's in the top left. Okay, so then you can push matrix, right? So a push matrix puts a new plate on the stack that I'm going to write on. Okay, so now I've got two plates on the stack. The one that's not active is the one that's buried in the bottom of the stack. That's the usual coordinate system. Now I've put a new coordinate system on top of that, and I translated it, right? If I want to get back to the old one, instead of doing a translate backwards, I can pop matrix. And what that does is it pops the top coordinate system off the stack. Brings you back to the other one. You guys cool with that? So, if I push go on this, it's going to draw the green stuff at the usual spots. And then it's going to put a new coordinate system on the stack that's translated to half-half. It's going to draw the blue stuff and do the mouse following business. And then it's going to pull that off the stack, get the usual coordinate back, and then draw the red stuff. So what I'm expecting to see is red stuff in a red ellipse and a red rectangle in the top left, and the blue stuff acting like it has been. Should we change what?
The position of the red one is going to be covering the green one.
Yeah, so we could move these guys a little bit just to... How would I move them a little bit? Yeah, okay. Fine. We'll do it the boring way. We won't translate them. So we'll just put them off a little bit so that we can see that the green ones are underneath. Cool? Questions, things? Okay. Good. Cool. That's translate.